The idea for today's video came from Nick DePaulo in the comment section, who said to do a top storylines for the Mets 2021 season. I thought it was a great idea, and I'm going to be bringing it to you. I want to thank Nick and everyone else, MetFan11S and others, for their recent support. The next video will be from Blue Man Production suggestion of where are the best fits for MLB free agents. I also thought that was a great idea, so I'm going to make that video as well. So if you guys have other good ideas or some videos you would like to see, let me know in the comment section below, and I will make them. I really appreciate the support. Try to get to 100, we did that. Try to get to 200, did that as well. Now we're trying to get to 300. So tell a friend. Let's keep communicating in the comment section, and let's keep talking Mets and all the other good things in sports. So for me, I have 5 main top storylines for the Mets in this 2021 season. I mean, with the change in ownership and the whole change of the front office, there's just going to be a lot of changes within the Mets in general. So I hope and expect that this would be a very different season from the Mets than years past. So my very first topic is starting pitching. What will the New York Mets rotation look like? Because you know what? We've seen the reports. Mets have interest in Charlie Morton. Mets have interest in Trevor Bauer and Jake Odorizzi and Masahiro Tanaka and Corey Kluber and Mike Minor. You know, you could have interest in all these guys, but who are you going to end up getting? And how many of these players are you going to get? Because I think that's something really important to keep in mind. Because when you look at the way the season went and what the Mets' plan was and what the reality was, it really shows the importance of depth. The Mets went to the 2020 season expecting that it was going to be Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Marcus Stroman, Steven Matz, Michael Wacha, Rick Porcello, and then they had Lugo and Gazelman as other options. You're like, wow, you know, we have the deepest rotation in baseball. How are they going to find starts for all these guys? How is Michael Wacha going to fit into the equation? There were all these question marks. Then Syndergaard gets hurt, then Stroman gets hurt and opts out, and then we saw Matz be inconsistent. We saw Rick Porcello not pitch well. We saw Michael Wacha not pitch well. So all of those things combined ended up having a drastically different rotation to the point where Robert Gazelman made way too many starts. Ariel Jurado made starts. Walker Lockett made starts. You know, we saw so many guys that came in and just did not get the job done. So let's say the Mets do get Trevor Bauer, or let's say the Mets get Charlie Morton or Jake Odorizzi or whoever, and they have a nice starting 5. Well, what about after that? Because in a 162-game season, it is extremely hard to get all 5 guys to be healthy consistently. So you got to have other guys to step in. What if these guys don't work out? Let's say the Mets do bring in Corey Kluber. What has been Kluber's problem? He's been injured a lot in the past. So if the Mets sign Kluber, say, okay, now we have a good rotation, and Kluber gets hurt, then what happens? You're going to go back to Robert Gazelman and back to these other pitchers? You can't do that. There cannot be no more Robert Gazelman making starts. You have to have competent major league pitchers coming in. So that is why I really want the Mets to also get Gio Gonzalez. That is why not only do I want the Mets to get a pitcher, whether it is Bauer or Morton and these other guys, but also get somebody like a Gio Gonzalez and others to be able to have those other starts. Because the main problem with the Mets starting pitching as well was that not only did these guys not pitch well, they also didn't pitch deep enough into games, only going 3 innings, 4 innings, 2 innings, and it happened time and time again. 4 innings was kind of the norm for Mets pitchers, and that is not okay when you don't have a bullpen that could really handle that kind of pressure, that on a nightly basis, have the bullpen go that many innings. The Mets bullpen is not strong enough to do that consistently. So that is why having the starting rotation be set and then having options after that is going to be a really interesting storyline for this team, and it's probably going to be the make or break. Because what got the Mets to the World Series in 2015 was their starting pitching. It wasn't their hitting. And starting pitching is just so valuable. You saw that with the Rays. You see that with the Dodgers. With all the recent champions, the Nationals, the Astros, they all had really good pitching, especially starting pitching. So that is why it has to be the main focus. And I know the Mets are connected to everybody, but it's just curious to see the storyline of how does it end up going. Like, will Stroman be healthy and consistent? Will Noah Syndergaard come back from injury and be productive? You know, will these other guys that the Mets bring in on the outside be good? Can David Peterson follow up with another solid year? Or will he be like Matz, who has a good rookie year, and then we don't know after that? So it's going to be very important. I mean, first of all, what do you even do with Robert Gazelman and Steven Matz? You might have to non-tender those guys because of how inconsistent they have been. So I think that's definitely going to be a main storyline. To go along with pitching, about how bad the rotation was, and it doesn't help that you have a bad bullpen. The bullpen, as always, is going to be a huge storyline this season, because what are the Mets going to do to address that? Obviously, they're going to do something for starting pitchers. We know they're going to get somebody. But then what are they going to do for their bullpen? Because just putting Seth Lugo back in the bullpen is not enough. You know, Lugo and Diaz, you need more than that, because you don't trust Dellin Betances, you don't trust Familia or Miguel Castro or Brad Brock or any of these other guys. I mean, Jason Shreve was pretty good. I would like them to re-sign Arasramo Ramirez. Justin Wilson's a free agent. You might have to re-sign him. He was really good his first year, second year, not as much. But the Mets have got to do a lot more work to their bullpen because, as I've said also in the past, also with these teams that win the championship, that have good starting pitching, they also use 7 pitchers in a game, and a lot of those are relievers. The Mets do not have that many good relievers they could trust in a playoff scenario. They only have, like I said, Lugo and maybe Diaz. That's about it. You have got to get a few more pitchers if you want to be on the same level as these other playoff teams and actually win that World Series that Steve Cohen is striving for. So once again, huge storyline there. Number 3 storyline for me is the lineup, and more particularly the playing time, because if there is no DH, this is going to be one of the main storylines for the entirety of the season. Who is going to play? Who's not going to play? Because you know what? If the Mets actually do make a move for a George Springer, they are going to have or even someone that was talked about yesterday, Marcell Ozuna, they're going to have a really big time logjam in their lineup because they're going to have a lot of really good players on the bench, because if you got Springer, then you would have J.D. Davis on the bench maybe, or Brandon Nimmo, or Andres Jimenez. I mean, those are 3, and Dom Smith. I mean, those are solid players that you were putting on the bench, and it's going to be up to the manager, Luis Rojas, to find the right combination of players. What if Alonso is struggling again and is not hitting with runners on base? Does Dom Smith take a shot? What if Cano gets hurt? Does McNeil move to second base? And then who goes out to the outfield? Is it JD? Is it Nimmo? Does Dom Smith go over there? There's a lot of question marks that have to be answered there. So I just think that finding out who is going to start, will it be Jimenez or Rosario? Can McNeil actually play a solid third base this year, or does JD have to play there and you lose the bat because JD only had like a 240 average last year compared to McNeil, who hit over 300. So I think that that's definitely going to be an extremely important storyline, is who is going to play, how are they going to perform. Number 4 storyline for me is the general manager, because I really am curious to see how much say will this new GM have on the team and how it looks. I mean, what if the GM really does not like some of these players? What if the GM says, you know what, we really need to get Marcell Ozuna. I mean, we have to get him. That has to be our number 1 priority. We have to do it. And he makes like this whole big case why Marcell Ozuna should be on the Mets. I'm just using Ozuna as an example. It could be any player. But it's just that if he values certain players over others, I don't think J.D. Davis is that good. We should trade him, or we should move this guy over here, or we should try putting Rosario in center field, something that's been talked about for a couple years now. If that GM has that much input and he wants to get rid of the manager, I think that that is really going to change the way the Mets view things. What if he says, I want our starting pitchers to not go as far into games. I want us to have more bullpen or less bullpen. I mean, it could just be a lot of different input and can lead to a drastically different Mets team on the field with their philosophy. And the general manager also brings me to the final and 5th storyline, which is the manager, Luis Rojas. So far, it looks like he's going to be the manager, but if that new GM comes in and says, I want a different manager, the Mets could end up getting a different manager, and that definitely would be very interesting. And now, let's just say that Steve Cohen makes true on his word, spends like a big market team, and the Mets get a lot of star players, and they have this really stacked, really talented team. If this team doesn't perform, and Luis Rojas makes questionable decisions, does not have the right guys hitting the right spots, playing the right positions, not sticking with the starting pitchers long enough, taking them out too early, bringing in the wrong relievers, using the wrong pitch hitter. If he does stuff like that on a consistent basis, I think that the kind of pressure that he'll be under from Cohen, who wants to win, and from Sandy and probably all the new front office, they're not going to go for that. One of my favorite quotes from Steve Cohen's press conference was, I'm not here for you to learn on my dime. And Luis Rojas, he cannot be learning on Steve Cohen's dime. I don't care how long he's been a coach. Managing on a major league level is a completely different ballgame. And if he can't get the job done, don't be surprised if the Mets move on from him during the middle of the season. So I think he's going to be someone very important to watch. And everything is just going to be interesting with this team because, again, it's a brand new day in Metland, so we hope. So let's see what Steve Cohen does, because once he gets the new pitchers or new catcher or new whoever, maybe new manager, then we'll have a much better idea of what this team may look like, and then we'll see how they perform. So until the next one, be safe, be smart, be healthy, and have a good one, everyone.